Good morning, everyone. Please allow me to thank the organizers for this event and, of course, welcome all of you to this session. I was invited to talk about open science in practice and what we as University Library is doing to support our researchers and, of course, the local academic community. So I will try to give an overview of what is open science, give some definitions, the policies that we are trying to follow in a European level, but also in a local level. What are the requirements for open access for publications? What are the requirements for open access to data? I will say a few things about Open Research Europe, the platform of the European Commission, and provide some useful tools for you as researchers that you can use to practice open science, and how this will assist you in terms of reporting and monitoring of your projects and work. So I will start, as I said, by let's say a few things about what created the need for open science, what the European Commission saw, identified, and suggested that we need to change the way we are doing our research. I suppose as researchers, you were able to, let's say, see how much the research to be done is needed, cost. If you are not under the umbrella of an institution, you would have you would have to pay for each, let's say, article, an amount of money for you to do your research. You can understand that this is not possible for one researcher, and of course, you must be affiliated to a university where the library pays for great amounts of money for you to have access in research outputs. So, I will go back to the definition of the European Commission, where the Commission defines the open science as the approach based on open cooperative work and systematic sharing of knowledge and tools as early and widely as possible in the process. This, of course, includes the terms of open access to publications, the FAIR principles, the open access to data, of course, considering the fact of open, the term of open as possible, as close as necessary, and give all the instruments to validate your research, and of course provide digital or physical access of the results to validate your conclusions. Many definitions came by through the years. UNESCO also included it in the recommendations. You can see other terms agreed, defined as an inclusive construct that combines various movements and practices aiming to make multilingual scientific knowledge openly available, accessible, and reusable for everyone, increase scientific collaborations and sharing of information for the benefits of science and society, and to open the process of scientific knowledge creation, evaluation, and communication to societal actors beyond the traditional scientific community. All scientific disciplines and aspects of scholarly practices, including basic and applied sciences, natural and social sciences, and the humanities, are included. It is considered that open science builds on the key pillars of open scientific knowledge, open science infrastructure, science communication, open engagement of societal actors, and open dialogue with other knowledge systems. The taxonomy of open science includes a lot of terms, and through the years it's getting more terms included under the umbrella of open science. You can see here open access, open data, open reproducible research, open educational resources, open data, open innovation, and all of them with their extensions. As I already mentioned, open science is not something new. It started back in 2008. The European Commission, through the FP7, the seventh framework program, decided that open access to publications will work as a pilot. It started mentioning institutional repositories and preprints. We saw terms like open access to journals and data repositories in Horizon 2020, starting in 2013. By the year 2017, open access to data was included as a default practice. And in 2018, we had the introduction of the European Open Science Cloud. And during Horizon Europe, open science is now a modus operandi, and it's included under the excellence criteria. And a lot of new terms came through, like open access, the diamond route. I will talk to it later. We saw the introduction of Open Research Europe, which includes open peer review practices, and it's provided to the researchers of the Europe. Mr. Dimitriadis already told you about the COARA, which is the Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment. It now has, I think, more than 700 signatories, which means that research institutions all over the world are working to find better ways to assess the researchers. Now, what has happened in our university through the years? Mr. Dimitriadis already mentioned a few milestones. Since 2008, we have signed the Berlin Declaration on Open Access to Knowledge in the Sciences and Humanities. Since 2009, we have been acting as National Open Access Desk. Our library was involved in a European project which provided, let's say, this role to our university library. In 2015, we were coordinating the National Working Group for Open Access in Cyprus. And this had, as a result, the creation of the first national policy for open access, which was approved by the Council of Ministers of the Republic of Cyprus. In 2019, we have been working through, again, a European project, and we were promoting the European Open Science Cloud Initiative. And in 2021, the time came for the revision of our national policy. You saw to the previous timeline that a lot of developments are happening. I would dare to say every year, if not earlier. So we always have to follow these developments. So the time has come to revise our national policy. So we created a national open science initiative group. This was under the umbrella of the Deputy Ministry of Research, Innovation and Digital Policy. Under the coordination of the Deputy Ministry, we were around the table discussing how we must revise our national policy, and finally in 2022, again the Council of Ministers approved the revised version of our national policy, which is now called National Policy for Open Science Practices and not Open Access, which was the previous version. Since 2023, we are working again in close collaboration with the Deputy Ministry, and we are doing a landscape mapping of what is happening at a national level for open science in Cyprus. This is also reported to the EOSC survey that is done annually. Through the years, we have been providing support to not only the University of Cyprus researchers and rectorate, but also to other universities and other researchers at the national level. In 2016, there was a Senate decision that all our researchers must have an ORG ID, and this should be in public view, openly available. ORG ID is the identification where the researchers are able to, let's say, avoid any similarities with other researchers. We're in Cyprus, we have a lot of Andreas Andreou. So having an ORG ID, these identifications help to identify which one Andreas Andreou is the one affiliated with the University of Cyprus, is the one affiliated with the Open University of Cyprus, or at any other university around the world. So it is important to have this, and of course having this gnosis. We were able to create an institutional policy and to be adopted from the Senate of the University. This happened in May 2022. And as Mr. Dimitriadis said, our university is a national chapter of Quorum. And very recently, in 2025, we upgraded the institutional repository gnosis, including researchers' profile and some other aspects and practices, such as giving the ability to researchers to add their narrative CVs. The narrative CVs is the way that researchers can use to explain the impact, the quality of their research, how their research impacted the society, for example. And of course, we provide a lot of supportive material and like guidance of how to create your ORG IDs, how to use Gnosis, how to self-archive. And of course, our university is involved in the consortium of academic libraries of Cyprus, where we are able to have some agreements, transformative agreements with publishers, and have some discounts or maybe free publications without the researchers paying the article processing charges to publish their work. A lot of awareness and training and support activities. We have set a collaboration with the Greek NOAD, the National Open Access Desk of OpenAIRE, where we provide webinars in Greek language. All the material then is openly available through Gnosis, and you can find them in a later stage if you were not able to attend the webinar in different aspects of open science. These include open data, legal issues such as copyright, GDPR, how to anonymize your data if needed, and citizen science, any other aspects that we saw earlier in the taxonomy of open science. What we try to do is to keep this webinar in Greek language because we identified that when the participants are attending the trainings in their local, in their mother tongue, they are more, let's say, they're feeling more confident to discuss or make questions and solve maybe any questions that they have. Of course, a lot of local activities are also happening. We try to host and invite almost all stakeholders to give information about what is happening and how you can practice open science. And I think the last one was about citizen science, and it was really useful for all of us to see that things are happening, and this is really encouraging. Things are happening also in Cyprus in terms, for example, citizen science. So it's not only the philosophy, it's becoming a practice also. The practices of the webinar practices we are also mentioned in the brochure of use cases on IOSC and open science as best practice, and this was really something motivating us to continue in this area. So, as Mr. Dimitriadis said, we are not alone, and we shouldn't be alone working on these issues. We are trying to make synergies and collaborations to work towards the issue of open science. You can see a lot of networks and European projects that we are working on regarding the open science topic. Here I try to, make them under which aspect of open science each project and each network is working. So you can see that we have been working a lot regarding infrastructures, regarding open access to publications, citizen science, the research assessment, and of course on policies. Now, let's see what is the mandate for open access. The mandate of European Commission is to deposit the peer-reviewed manuscript in a trusted repository, for example, by self-archiving. The manuscript can be in the author-accepted manuscript version or the version of record. I will explain to my next slide at which stage of the process of the publication this will be. We don't have the barcode period now in the Horizon Europe framework. This is something that we have in the Horizon 2020 calls. The beneficiaries that were under the Horizon 2020 calls, they were able to ensure open access to the publications within a maximum of 6 months or 12 months for publications in the social sciences and humanities. This is not something happening in Horizon Europe, where it is expected to provide your publication in immediate open access. The authors must make sure that they retain their rights, their copyrights, by having the AAM version and or the VOR version under CC BY license. I will again make a reference to the Creative Commons licenses later. The information about your research output or tools or instruments are needed to validate the conclusions of your publication. Make sure that you add the acronym or the code of your project in your publication. The publication fees, the APCs, as we call them, are reimbursable if the venue is full open access, also known as gold open access. There are no restrictions on where to publish. There doesn't have to be full open access, but APCs for hybrid journals are not covered. This means that if you decide that you want to publish in a hybrid journal, you must find other ways to fund, to pay your APCs. CC BY NC and BY ND license are allowed for long text formats, for example, monographs. A chapter in an edited book is not eligible. So the process of having a publication, as you probably know, is creating your draft, then submit a preprint version. Then it's going through the process of peer reviewing. You will have some revisions, then this will come back to you for make the necessary revisions to your publication, and then you will end having the version that is now accepted for publication. This is the AAM version I was referring earlier. After this stage, the publishers are making any editing, and finally you will get the version of record. This means that it's the version that the publisher will use with any indications of their names, pages, etc. That will be provided for to the journal for publication. Self-archiving is when this is the green route. You may hear it as the green route. And this is the process of depositing a version of your work on a trusted repository. The versions are the one mentioned earlier, the AAM or the version of record. Irrespectively of where you publish, you still need to deposit the AAM or version of record on a repository, except if you publish in Open Research Europe, which is the platform of the European Commission. The AAM or version of record might be available under different licenses. For example, if you sign a copyright transfer agreement on the version of record, you must make sure that you retain your rights, that you are able to have the rights of your work and then be able to provide it as one of these two versions to a repository. Please be reminded that social networking sites or ResearchGate or academia, the publisher's website, your own website, your profile page or whatever on your institutional website is not a repository. This is really important because this is one of the frequently asked questions I get. They are not repositories and they are not monitored. They are not compatible with the European Commission's infrastructure for reporting or monitoring, and they are not accepted as open access. Trusted repositories can be found through registries. You can check in OpenDoor. Or if you want to submit your data, you can visit the Registry for Research Data Repositories. Through OpenAIRE Explorer, you can search for a trusted repository, and of course Zenodo, which is the repository provided by the European Commission for orphan publications. This means that if you are not affiliated with a university or a research institution, and your institution or university does not provide a repository, you can always use Zenodo in order to be aligned with the mandate of the European Commission. This is where Gnosis came, and we as a university, we are now able to provide to our researchers this infrastructure for be fully compliant with the European Commission's mandate. This is Gnosis. This is the new version. If you're affiliated, you will also find your profile there. Please make sure that everything is corrected. If not, please contact me or contact the generic account of Gnosis and tell us, please correct my information. We invite you to proceed with this process. We have also adopted Altmetrics in Gnosis, which is alternative ways of showing the impact of your work. And you can see here that a publication coming from the Department of Psychology, through this analysis of metrics, I don't know if you can see it clearly, but of course the presentation will be also circulated later, that the impact of this publication was not only for psychology. We saw impact in law, we saw impact in literature and other areas, which is something really important to see, that you are not only focused on researchers coming from your area, from your discipline. Of course, I told you earlier about the guidelines that we provide for ORCID. Make sure to have them updated, because this is also a way that we use to make the connection among our researchers. For the purpose of open access, the author must provide this in a repository. Again, you have to make sure that you keep your copyright. This is something I try to make it, to highlight it because it's really important. Because by the moment you publish somewhere and you sign the copyright transfer agreement, then you will not be able to do anything with your work. This is really important to have it in mind. And also make sure that the publishers that you select are allowing you to use your work in the way the European Commission or your funded is aligned. So, regarding Creative Commons, these are different licenses that you can use, and by selecting one, you as the author are deciding how your work will be used. For example, if you select the CC BY, it means that you allow everyone to use your work, but you need attribution. You need to manage the next researcher that will use, or anyone that will use your work, must cite you, must say that this work came by Andres. Some other licenses are also provided, which can be that the next researcher can use my work, but cannot use it for commercial reasons. They cannot make derivatives. No commercial, no derivatives, or they must just share it alike. No changes must be done. So make sure to have these signs in mind. As I told you, the European Commission is asking for specific Creative Commons licenses, which is usually the CC BY. That means that you can use it, but please make attribution. Or CC0, which means that this work can be in public domain and can be used even for commercial use or in any other ways. Now, let's say that you decided that you want to publish in a journal, but you don't know if this is aligned with the policies of the European Commission or the funder. This is a tool that you can use, the journal checker tool, where you are able to write the name of the journal or the ISSN number, your funder, and your institution. The institution is needed because in the case of transformative agreements, even if you decide to publish in a hybrid journal, the tool will let you know that you can contact your library and then you can have your APCs paid by the library, for example. I suggest you to use it. It's a good way to make sure that you are fully aligned with your funder's policies. Now, what is the diamond route? The diamond route of open access is where the authors or the institutions or funders do not pay for any open access fees. There are no APCs, and maybe I should go a step back and letting you know that for you, in order to have access to applications and the databases, etc., the university library usually pays for you. And you, as the author that wants to, let's say, publish somewhere, you usually don't pay. This is the traditional way of doing research. In the case of open access journals, the publishers are asking for authors to pay in order to provide their publication in open access. So the readers or the libraries do not pay additionally for providing access. I don't know if this is clear, but we can have a discussion later to make everything clear. In the diamond route, authors do not pay APCs, and institutions do not pay also, neither funders. So we provide our publication in open access, and that's it. No one pays. But everything, at some point we need to be funded. Even for the infrastructure, for example. In this case, usually the universities are creating infrastructures for, let's say, open diamond journals. We have some examples here at the university, and we as the library are providing the infrastructure for journals, mainly humanities, to be provided through the infrastructure in open access, and nobody pays. The university library is holding this through the rest of the infrastructure of our library. This is more common in some parts of the world. We can see here a graph where this is, let's say, implemented more. This is, let's say, it's a matter of maturity and disciplines, of course. Again, you can find this kind of journals through the journal checker tool. So if you're coming from humanities, most probably you will be able to find what is happening in Cyprus also. And of course, other journals in other disciplines can also be found there. I said a few times the term Open Research Europe, and the time has come to explain what this is all about. Open Research Europe, it's a publishing platform that the European Commission is providing. It's a publishing platform that supports the Diamond model of open access. But this is, at least by now, only provided for the Horizon Europe beneficiaries. We can see some numbers of how it has been working until this is by the end of 2024, and of course there are a lot more by now. And how does this work? There are no costs to authors or readers, as we said earlier, so no APCs. The costs are met directly by the European Commission. Of course, it's an optional service. It supports open peer review. This means that your reviewers are known and you are able to see who is reviewing your work. The publications are immediately uploaded, and then the review takes place. Of course, it's automatically compliant with any open access requirements of the European Commission, and you don't need to make any self-archive to any repository because it's directly archived in Zenodo once passed from the peer review process. High scientific standards and policies are applied. There is scientific advisory board, and of course there are some policies and guidelines. For example, you have to make analysis of your methods, how your data where or will be available, etc. The process is actually really easy. You submit your article. The preprint version is published within 10 days, enabling immediate viewing and citation. Names of reviewers and their reviews are published alongside the publication, and authors' responses and comments from registered users can be seen, can be viewed. And then the publication, the article, is then sent to indexers and repositories when it is when the peer review process is passed. It's a multidisciplinary platform, which means that so that you can publish no matter which discipline you are coming from. The in-house editorial team does not review the academic and scientific content of the publication. Only the reviewers that are selected, you can suggest which reviewers can review your article. Then there is a process from the editorial team ensuring that they meet some necessary criteria, for example, that there are no conflicts of interest or suggesting additional expertise. So you cannot suggest your friend to review your article, your colleague, because there will be a conflict of interest. So the editorial team makes sure that everything is in place. There is an extensive list of questions which must be answered, and once all necessary reviews performed, the editorial team checks for process, content, language, and correct status, and completes the publishing process. I don't know how much time. Oh, okay, great. This is an example of a peer review. You will see that if you have 3 ticks, then your article is approved and can be go in other databases as shown earlier. The question mark means that there is approval, but with reservations, and X is that the article is not approved. Everything is open. Everything can be seen. Okay? This is how a reviewer's report is seen. All the comments are openly available, and of course, you know who is reviewing your article. And you are able as author to respond and, let's say, defense yourself and your decision and your article. There are research communities that you can find, and the process is very easy. Something important to mention is that there are no metrics, because this is what we want to move from. We want to, let's say, review the research through a qualitative way and not quantitative way. So let's see what is happening with research data. The mandate is that you have to provide the data that you have used to make your research in open access. And also they must be aligned with FAIR principles. A data management plan is required by month 6, and this can be, of course, updated during the project or by the end of the project. You must anyway deposit your metadata as soon as possible after the production or generation of your project data, and deposit your data in a trusted repository. You saw the registry earlier where you can find a trusted repository, and make them open as soon as possible, following the as open as possible, as closed as necessary principles. FAIR principles stands, the FAIR acronym stands for findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. This means that your data must have a persistent identifier, a handle or a DOI or any other persistent identifier, and you can apply. They must have rich metadata, which means that you must explain what this data is all about. Give a title, give the dates, give a description of how this data were collected. And of course, they must be searchable and discoverable online. They must be accessible. You must deposit them on a trusted repository, for example, Zenodo or Gnosis. Data can be restricted and still fair, again, by keeping the principle of as open as possible, as closed as necessary. They must be interoperable, so you can understand that by providing an image of an Excel file does not make them interoperable. It's better for you to provide an Excel file or provide a CSV file so that the next researcher will be able to reuse them. And of course, they must be well documented, including provenance and tools, instruments that probably will be needed in order to reproduce the results, and provide clear licenses. I decided to give my data under a CC BY license, for example. What is a data management plan? As I already mentioned, this is something that you must submit by the 6th month of your project. And this is actually a formal living document describing how you will collect, how you will manage, how you will treat, and how you will store your data. They must be clear, specific, and detailed, and of course justify decisions. If you decide to keep them closed for a period of time, you must justify why. Data can be closed if necessary, but the metadata, the description of your data, must be under FAIR principles and, of course, openly accessible and available. Again, this is also referring to other research outputs, also such as tools or instruments that are needed to reuse or validate the data. In the case of commercially valuable data, or if by giving open access to your data means that it creates issues of privacy, or trade secrets are in danger, or let's say you're in the process of patenting something, of course, this is a valid justification for not opening your data. Of course, exceptions are there. For example, in the case of a public emergency, beneficiaries must, if requested by the granting authority, to immediately deposit any research output in a repository, provide open access to it, or under CC BY or CC 0 or equivalent. Of course, as an exception, if the access will be against the beneficiary's legitimate interests, beneficiaries must grant non-exclusive licenses under fair or reasonable conditions to legal entities that need the research output to address the public emergencies, and commit to rapidly and broadly exploit the resulting products and services at fair and reasonable conditions. This provision applies up to 4 years after the end of the action. For example, we had this case during COVID pandemic. There were some data, and you can understand that it's health data, so in some cases they need to be closed, but this was a case of a public emergency. So some useful tools that you can always go and find some answers. For example, you can visit OpenAirExplore. This is a very big data set, a comprehensive and open data set of research information with millions of publications, research data, research software items where you can go and get advice. Or for example, where can I put my publication, which is the trusted repository, etc. You can search for publications for your research, find statistics, metrics, and graphs for projects, data sources, research products, etc. This is Amnesia. Amnesia is a tool that can be used to anonymize your data, because you probably have data that you can provide, but they have personal data. So what you can do is you can anonymize them and provide them to a repository. This is a tool that can help you with. This is Argos. This is a tool that can assist you to write your data management plan. It's free for researchers. It's based on open source. It's a great tool for planning how you will handle your research data. So I urge you to test it and finally use it. And of course, by using it, you can create your templates, profiles. You can share your work so your team will be able to work together, and a lot of other functions that can be used. So, coming to the reporting process, you know that everything must be reported to your funder, usually, for example, the European Commission. Usually demands extensive reporting regarding your open science practices. And this is monitored by project officers and reviewers during periodic reviews. I don't know if you're familiar with this portal. This is a participant portal of the European Commission. At the moment that you provide your publication and data in a trusted repository and a compatible OpenAIRE repository, then everything will be transferred to this platform. So no additional work will be needed on your side. So this is why we suggest that you make sure that you either find the small logo under the repository's writing OpenAIRE compatible, or that it is a trusted repository, because then you will save time, of course, and then you're also compatible with the mandate. All the publications can be found there. You only have to approve or reject, or maybe make some editing regarding any possible mistake that is added during the first edition of the publication. Okay, I think this is, you can skip this. And same happens with datasets. Again, if you have them in a trusted repository, you will find them at the end to the reporting portal. Again, the same process. You can accept or reject or make any edits needed so that the project officer or the reviewer will be able to find them there. During the evaluation, there are mandatory open science practices. Usually score will be lowered for not sufficiently addressing them unless duly justified. The recommended open science practices have no impact on score if not addressed, but score will be increased if sufficiently addressed. And open science practices listed in the template for proposals under section excellence, as we said earlier, methodology, you can find them there, but of course this is a non-extensive list. So what are the practices? You can find here which are the mandatory ones and which are the recommended ones. For example, research, the data management plan is a mandatory practice. The information on outputs, tools, instrumented access to data, results for validation of publications is mandatory. Open access to publications, open access to data, and you can see there the other recommended practices. I think it's a good table that can help you be fully compliant with what is needed. Pre-registration is a practice that you can also use. For example, if you are doing a systematic literature review and this is openly available, this is considered pre-registration process. So if you provide this in open access, through open access, you can report it, and of course it will be evaluated accordingly. Preprints, I hope you remember this this line of the process of the publications. This is, let's say, the first version of your publication. You are suggested to provide this also in open access. There are a lot of infrastructures that can host it, and accordingly be evaluated. If you participate or you are doing or being involved in public engagement activities, is again important to be noted and reported. For example, if you're taking part to the European Researchers' Night, this is happening in Cyprus, I think, in October. If you were there and your project was presented, it's important again to have in mind that you should report it as a public engagement practice report. Citizen science, it's a really nice, in my perspective, it's a great way of doing open science, on practicing open science. It's the inclusion of citizens in the process of research, either by doing activities that the public that can participate in, or whether the citizens contribute by providing data in some cases to the scientists, or by disseminating the research, or by, let's say, hearing their opinions. We have a lot of examples happening in our university that are practicing citizen science, and it's really important, and it's really nice to see that citizens are really engaging and actually enjoying being part. And this is also providing trust from the public to research and the researchers and the science in total. So which aspects are eligible in the budget of your projects? Publication fees, article processing charges can be covered by the grant if the venue is full open access. So this is also known as gold open access. Hybrid journals are not eligible. You will have to find another way to cover those costs. Any printing fees can't be covered by the grant either. And as I told you, if you are involved in engagement of citizens, civil society, and then user citizen science and participation in crowdsourcing activities, it's again eligible costs. Data curation costs again are eligible. So an overall tip is to make sure that you design an open science strategy for your project. This is really important because you will be able, of course, to know beforehand where I will publish and avoid any surprises that, for example, the journal I decided to publish, it's not eligible and I cannot pay for it. Of course, you can always advise the university library for this. Whether there is a transformative agreement, for example, that can cover you any additional costs. Make specific provisions about where publications and data will be deposited and who is responsible, if not you, for doing this. Who will make sure during your project that all outputs have been deposited in the appropriate and compatible repositories. Implement your open science strategy, report at reviewers and during your reviews, and of course provide updates. For example, during the data management plan updates, keep track of issues, and discuss any solutions. So I want to close my presentation by mentioning some of the frequently asked questions I am having. So what about copyrights and user licenses? Open access is not an infringement on copyrights. In fact, making your work open access makes it more visible, and this is only something that considers you. You are the author, you are doing all the work, you are the copyright owner, and you should be the one deciding how I will treat my research. So there is no case that the copyrights are, let's say, it's a problem, or it's against, the open access is not against copyrights. You can negotiate your copyrights. There are some addendums, there are some model amendments that you can use. So in the case of a researcher that does not allow you to use your version of record or your AAM, you have to make sure that you can negotiate with them. And what I already said is that make sure that you know where you transfer your copyrights. Because if you signed a copyright transfer agreement, you will not be able to use your work afterwards. There are some tools like Sherpa Romeo that offers a journal-by-journal overview of publishers' self-archiving policies. You can also advise this. If your publisher does not allow self-archiving, that is compliant with the policies of the European Commission or any other funders, you can find the amendments I told you earlier. And of course, you can choose the licenses under which you want to provide your research to be used by other researchers or anyone else. Now, a big issue. What about the predatory journals? Of course, some journals present themselves as great open access journals, but they turn out to be predatory journals, that they are only looking for APCs. So you must be very cautious on this, and you can, let's say, find ways to identify whether this one is a predatory or not. Of course, most of us, we usually know in our disciplines, some people that are working either in editorial teams. So you know that in most of the cases, you know the quality of journals. But again, this doesn't mean that we must stop being, cautious on where we will publish our work. Here are some questions that you can, let's say, use to identify or, make you understand whether this one is a trusted journal or not. There is also a list of potential predatory journals, the bare list. But if I'm not mistaken, this has stopped being updated since 1 or 2 years ago. So, of course, you can advise it, but this is not an extensive list. What are article processing charges? Again, these are publication fees that are charged to authors to make publications immediately open access. can vary widely. However, the majority of open access journals are APC3, so you can avoid it. But in any case, you must make sure that you also provide your paper, your article in a trusted repository. Of course, you are allowed to publish it anywhere you want, but if you are under the umbrella of any funder that their policies are mandatory open access, make sure that you're able to have it in a trusted repository. And here is a checklist. Why not academia or ResearchGate or any other, personal platform? I will not go through it. You can see it there for many reasons. For example, they don't provide any harvesting. You cannot export. You're not provided with a persistent identifier, which means that then it will not be under the FAIR principles and many other reasons. So this is all I wanted to say today. I'm here for questions, and yes, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sylvia, for guidance and the detailed presentation. And do we have, first of all, do we have questions from the people? Okay. Are there any questions from you here? From the audience physically attending? Everything was crystal clear, I think.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Around, so we can discuss them.
Great. You know where to find her in the library. Thank you.
Thank you.